Good evening and welcome to the Coon Rapids City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. If you could please rise and join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Here.
Councilmember Rayrauer. Here. Councilmember Novak.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here. Thank you. Why don't we adopt this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Griscoviac to adopt this evening's agenda. Is there any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. We're up to the approval of the minutes from the February 6th meeting, and it looks like everybody was present there, so.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Armstrong to approve the minutes from the February 6th, 2024 meeting. Is there any any corrections or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And those minutes are approved. We have 4 items on our consent agenda this evening. The first item, which is item 2 on this evening's agenda, is to authorize execution of amended joint powers agreement, street maintenance materials contract. Originally, the cities of Coon Rapids, Andover, Brooklyn Center, Columbia Heights, and Fridley joined together to solicit bids for street maintenance services, and the joint powers agreement has since been amended to include Ham Lake, East Bethel, Anoka, Matamidi, Circle Pines, Mounds View, Arden Hills, St. Francis, and Rogers. Also, the 20-day comment period and the 30-day opting out period were combined into one 30-day period after the recommendation of the award. All right. What we're doing tonight, the City of Champlin expressed interest in joining the group to participate in 2024 activities. On January 22nd, 2024, the Champlin City Council adopted a resolution authorizing the execution of a joint powers agreement and participation in our program. The 11th Amendment need only be executed by the cities of Coon Rapids and Champlin. So we're looking to approve the joint powers agreement amendment attached for consideration. So we're looking to authorize the execution of the 11th Amendment to the Joint Power Agreement, adding the City of Champlin to the North Metro Regional Street Maintenance Consortium. The second item on our consent agenda is to adopt Resolution 24-32, accepting donation for a park bench. The family of Lois and Gerald Armstrong have donated $700 for a park bench in honor of their memories. The city has administered a park bench donation program for many years, and the family of Lois and Gerald Armstrong would like to donate $700 for a park bench to honor their memories. The city council is required to accept financial donations by resolution per state statute, so we're looking to adopt Resolution 24-32 to accept a $700 donation from the family of Lois and Gerald Armstrong. The next item on our consent agenda is item 4, which is to accept an assessment waiver agreement with Winifred, Saye, for property located at 12001 Crane Street. Public Works responded to a potential water main break near this property, and upon inspection, it was determined that the leak was on the private house side of the curb stop, which is the private owner's responsibility to repair. Staff worked with the property owner to describe the situation and associated concerns and assisted in the process of determining the appropriate repair. Public Works staff have continued to check in on the homeowner and assist with ensuring water is available, but the temporary solutions for providing water are not sustainable, so a repair must be completed soon. The property owner has selected a contractor to complete the work, but is unable to afford the total cost of the repair at this time. City staff have determined it is in the best interest of all parties to have the repairs take place immediately in order to correct the unsafe and hazardous conditions now existing and to assess the costs against the property. These conditions also affect the city and neighboring properties. So we're looking to approve and execute the assessment waiver agreement with Winifred Saye for the property at 12001 Crane Street. And the fourth and final item on our consent agenda, which is item 5 on this evening's agenda, is to approve a new T-Mobile lease amendment on the Hanson Water Tower. City staff and T-Mobile have negotiated the attached lease amendment to extend the lease for an initial 5-year term with 3 additional 5-year options, effective September 8th, 2025. All other terms of the original lease remain in place, including that use of the facility shall be subordinate to the city's use of the facility, as well as other public safety and government agencies. When the lease is ended or terminated by either party, T-Mobile shall be responsible for removing its equipment, repairing and restoring the site. So we're looking to, well, let's see, I might as well do the contract amounts here. Under the current lease, T-Mobile's rent in 2024 is $33,486.63. And under the new lease amendment, the rent will increase to $42,000 per year with an annual 3.5% rent escalation. So we're looking to authorize approval and execution of the First Amendment of the site lease agreement with T-Mobile Central LLC. And that is our 4 items on our consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rayrauer,
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
motion by Rayrauer and a second by Novak. Is there discussion or questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Carlson?
I just want to thank the Armstrong family for their donation. What a wonderful way to memorialize our lost loved ones and at the same time provide a place for people in our parks to rest. Just a wonderful thing.
It's the first time I've seen one that was just done for their memories. Not memorial, but
Memories.
apparently they have good memories of the city, and I like that. That's good.
And Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
nice to welcome Champlin to the group, even though they're across the river, they're still in North Metro. And just as a thank you to staff for working with the family on Crane Street, where we know that there's times that something happens and it's in the city's best interest, the neighborhood's best interest, to get it fixed. And some of these things can be expensive, and to be able to find good solutions where everybody benefits, that, and basically we pay it, but it's assessed back to the property, so the property owner will be paying it. And since the benefit is with the property, it can get paid over time. So I appreciate that staff is willing to work with our residents and get to the best solution.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac?
just one comment on adding Chaplin to the joint powers. I think it's great. Thanks to Chaplin for finally coming around. Our friends
I was wondering
across-
which direction you were going there.
Yeah, our friends across the river there. No, I think, build scale and everything like this, so that's great. My question to maybe to Mark Hanson or Tim Himmer tonight is, are they in time to be included in our bid project for the 2024 projects?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that actually will probably help us too in getting better pricing, for more projects, so. Excellent. That's all I had.
Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the consent agenda is adopted. Item 6, this one involves holding a public hearing and consider Resolution 24-1 Sub 6A, ordering project, and 24-1 Sub 8, approving plans and specifications and authorizing bids. Mr. Hanson, you have something for us.
I do. Mayor and council, I'm here tonight to give a presentation on our 2024 street reconstruction project. A little bit of background about our project that we are proposing for reconstruction this year. We rated the streets in 2021, spring of 2021. That's when we had determined that these streets were in deficient, poor condition. We also spent a lot of time talking about where our public works crews are spending the most time patching potholes. And this is one of the neighborhoods, so it's been on our list. These 3 groups of streets have been on our list for a while. And then staff first met with the council on May 9th of last year to talk about initial recommendations for what this project has now evolved to. So the first area proposed for reconstruction is what we call the Woodcrest neighborhood. It's bounded by Quint Street on the west side over to Kumquat on the east, and then in between 99th Avenue and 101st Avenue. So all of those streets are proposed to be completely reconstructed. We will be providing a brand-new road, all brand-new curb and gutter. We will be repairing and replacing storm sewer, as well as sanitary manholes and castings. Also, we'll be replacing all of the water main throughout this entire neighborhood, including all of the services. And then constructing a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk from the Coon Rapids Boulevard extension, where the trail is there, over to Olive Street. The second group of streets is 90th Avenue and Norway Street. This is a little cul-de-sac that is east of East River Road and then south of Highway 610. It's one of those groups of streets. It's kind of isolated and good to kind of pick up because we want to do our street projects when we do things, when we do these street projects, we want to do them in a logical way where we don't have to go back and forth. So this is a good outlier street that we were able to pick up. We've known about and been watching these streets in this neighborhood here for a while. So this is the time that we propose to do it. And it will be another complete resurface of the road, replacing only the damaged pieces of curb and gutter. So not all of the curb and gutter within all of these, within this area. Driveway aprons as needed, and then repairing the storm and sanitary manholes. We will also be upgrading the street light poles and fixtures on this neighborhood. So in the previous neighborhood of Woodcrest, all of those street lights are owned and maintained by Connexus. In this area, they're city street lights. So the fixtures and the poles will be upgraded to meet our current standards. And then the last group of streets are the post office roads. So this is 102nd Avenue, Goldenrod Street, and 102nd Lane, adjacent to the Coon Rapids Post Office and Aspen Park, as well as the new apartments and then the Paladin School that is now there. So again, resurfacing the road, replacing all the damaged curb and gutter, driveway aprons, repairing any storm and sanitary manholes, upgrading the street light poles and fixtures to meet our current standards, and then extending the sidewalk on the south side of 102nd Avenue, where there is currently a small gap from where the apartments were recently built over to Foley Boulevard. So our schedule is, we are here tonight to hold the public hearing, and then Council would hold the public hearing, and then we would recommend that they approve the plans and specifications and order the advertisement for bids. I would note that we have had 2 open houses so far for this project on October 11th of last year, as well as January 24th earlier this year. So moving forward, assuming if the project does move forward after tonight, then we would be recommending a contract award on April 2nd, and then adopting assessments on May 7th. That's a critical date because if the project does move forward, it's not until after May 7th that the assessments are able to be paid. And then construction would happen or would begin and take place throughout May to September of this year. We will have an open house in the nearby Woodcrest Park for all of the residents, where we will be in the park with the contractor and available to answer questions one-on-one. It's an open house. We won't have a presentation on the project in the park, but it will be open house style format. So over 2 hours, people can arrive whenever they want and ask questions, and we will have the schedules, the defined schedules there that night that we can refer to and talk people through on how that, all of the construction is going to happen. And of course, we will be sending letters out that will have all the project contact information, the schedule, frequently asked questions prior to any work beginning. People have the option to sign up for weekly updates. Every Friday, we do an update on what a 1-week look-ahead schedule is, a very general schedule, so people kind of have an idea what's going on for the upcoming week. And then we do have an option where people can sign up for text message updates for those unpredictable events that sometimes come up, where we have to close the road for a short period of time. Estimated project costs, overall, we're projecting about 6.9 million, spread over various funds, street reconstruction fund, different utility enterprise funds, and then assessments. So a lot of people ask, why does the city assess? Property taxes, the general property taxes pay approximately, or they're intended to pay 50% of the street surfacing costs. So in reality, the actual, due to the orientation of projects and what we can assess for these projects, it really turns out to be more of like a 70-30 split in terms of what the city pays, the general taxes of the city, and then what we assess for the projects. Special assessments also allow the city to be able to raise money without increasing the overall general property taxes, and then bonding, which is something that we have to do for these projects, is only possible if we do assess for a portion of the cost. Special assessments also apply to any property, properties like churches and schools that impact our roads. They are not exempt from special assessments. They have to pay as well. And then none of the work that we're doing for the water, sewer, or drainage repairs is paid for as part of the assessments. It's all paid for from the enterprise funds, which are paid from your quarterly utility bills. So our assessment rates for 2024, $2,377 for a single-family resident. Every single-family residential property pays the same. It doesn't matter if you're a corner lot or an interior lot, everybody pays the same. However, twin homes, duplexes, townhomes, apartments pay by the front foot of the street that we are reconstructing. And that amount is $31 a front foot. Commercial property is approximately twice that much at $60 a foot, and then another 30% on top of that for industrial properties, the latter of which we do not have any of in this project. But we do have a couple of commercial properties. Assessment payment options. People will not be getting another invoice after they receive the notice for this public hearing. And the reason for that is there's different ways that you can pay the assessment, depending on what you choose. So if the project moves forward and the assessments are adopted on May 7, and we hold that back so that work can actually start on the project, and then we adopt the assessment. So we're incurring costs by the time the assessments are adopted. Beginning on May 8th, out to June 8th, you can pay that assessment if you choose without any interest. Another option for property owners is after June 8th, then interest will start accruing, but up to November 15, you can pay the assessment with some interest. And then option 3 is do absolutely nothing, and then that assessment will roll over to your property taxes to be paid starting in 2025. The assessment rate is 4.34%. So if you were a single-family home property owner, you would be looking at another $307 each year for 10 years if you were to spread it out with your property taxes. What are the other cities around us assessing? This is what we have found through researching the typical cities we talked to about their assessment rates. And once again, Coon Rapids is at the bottom of the list for what other cities are. So it is important to understand, really every city has to do this same process in order to fix their infrastructure. Some notification forms. You will see these coming up occasionally. If you are a property owner and you are in the audience or watching on TV, the temporary water shutoff notices are always distributed by the pink tags. They always, and I should say for both of these notices, they're always put on the very front door. So if you go in through your garage or a different way or your house, you might miss it. We try to do the best we can to make them very apparent, but occasionally they do blow off. But this is what they look like. Water shutoffs on the left side of the screen, and then all the other miscellaneous notices that we might need to inform you of, such as we may need to limit your access to your driveway temporarily or something like that, or we're doing curb on your street, or we're paving your street. Are going to come on the notice on the right.
Mr. Hanson, if they're receiving notices like this, And they're also signed up for the text messages. They'll also get will they also get a text message about
Text
this?
messages are really more for the unusual events. Those are going to be much more limited,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, so.
The weekly updates are more broad. This is really what you want to get, to make sure you're getting for those individual impacts
Okay,
to different
so when you get home,
properties.
check the front door.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We do have a couple of reconstruction videos, street reconstruction videos that talk about the sequence of the process, as well as a lot of the questions that we normally get that are available on our city website. We'd encourage anyone to take a look at that. And then lastly, we did get one written objection that was supplied to the city staff, the city clerk, prior to this meeting. I provided a hard copy to all of the council members for your information. And with that, I will take any questions and recommend council hold the public hearing.
Your Honor.
Councilmember Novak?
Mr. Hanson, this summer we had a lot of events where the public would come and they'd be able to have fun, and different departments in the city had different displays. One of them had a listing of all of the streets that were scheduled to be repaired. I presume that what we have here was listed there and was prioritized accordingly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Mayor? Oh.
Let's see, Councilmember Rayrauer and then Councilmember Carlson.
I just want to say thank you for doing, and all of the city staff for doing a phenomenal job, as always, with keeping our street reconstruction on a rolling basis, finding ways to keep our streets just really well maintained, but also being able to have our assessments be some of the lowest, our property taxes being low comparatively. So just thank you for the work that you do.
Councilmember Carlson?
Mr. Hanson, I just had a quick question. I know that Mr. Himmer had mentioned this in one of our earlier discussions. There's that section of 99th on the north side from Olive to Woodcrest Drive. And there's no sidewalk going there. And just when that project gets going and people say, why is that sidewalk stopping right here? Can we get an explanation of why that sidewalk didn't go all the way to Woodcrest Drive?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we are in the process of doing some active transportation planning throughout the entire city. And we feel like this is a corridor that could be looked at in a few different ways. So we want to do all the investigation we can to build the right thing. We're also noticing that there's some limited space in a few spots. Whereas we might need to grade beyond some of the fence lines that are currently there. Some of the fences are projected or they're right at their property line. So those two things have compelled us to recommend holding off on that section of sidewalk. But it's not something that we will not be looking at as part of the future.
I had a couple other questions too, Mr. Hanson.
Go for it.
Was water mains. Are those original water mains to the neighborhood?
Well, the neighborhood was actually constructed, and a lot of the homes were built prior to the water mains, the sewers, and the road even being paved. In fact, many of the homes started out on well and septic. But yeah, this is the water mains are the first ones that were constructed for the neighborhood.
So replacement of these water mains are extremely it's very helpful, isn't it?
Yes.
As far as reducing the chance of breaks and
Correct.
such like. And then between the, and the water mains, of course, so all that's covered under the utilities fund. So there's, that's not part of the assessment.
Correct.
Okay. And then I was just wondering, with both that, new water mains, new roads, does that increase the value of our residences?
From the studies that we have done, it showed that any street improvement, a new road does improve the property value. Now, some people ask, will that consequently raise my property taxes? Not necessarily. But I do think that people do look at the condition of their street when they choose where to live. And so based on studies that we have done in a couple of past instances, we've projected it's anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 increase in the property value.
Thank you.
Mr. Brody, yes.
Appreciate this line of questioning. Mr. Hanson, in all of our assessments, at least on the residential, are less than that $4,000 or $5,000
Yes.
increase, which is
Yes,
what we're
the-
required to under
Yes,
statute.
the law is, you would remind me, Mr. Brody, requires the assessment must be less than the benefit received.
Thank you.
Excellent question.
You've established a good record.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Mr. Hanson, is there a way I can get a copy of your presentation? Because
Absolutely.
I've got a couple of these in my ward, and I love facts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Yep,
appreciate it.
I will send it to you.
Thank you.
You're on?
So, okay, Councilmember Novak?
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, just kind of a out of left field type question. You'd mentioned that the water mains are going to be getting replaced. These water mains and the fact that that comes from the enterprise fund, would you say that that's one of the reasons why our assessments are lower than many other cities, is because we actually have that kind of funding for the other segments of this bill?
Yeah, every city does that a little differently, so it'd be hard for me to comment on that, but I think, the ones that we have seen in Anoka, for example, they do include the cost of all of the utility work as part of their assessments. And yes, that would be part of the reason. But I know other cities, such as Fridley, does not typically replace the utilities as part of their project.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but enterprise fund that basically means that the cost of the utility covers
Yes,
the
correct.
the repairs
Yep.
of that utility.
That's correct.
Utility. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Yeah, just want to comment, this is a big project for the city, and there's a lot of good infrastructure being rebuilt in the city, so I can support this full steam ahead here. It says that we're going to replace some storm and sewer just only as needed. My understanding is most of those lines have been relined, so we're not going to have a lot of that in this project.
So
And then and then if you could just maybe for the residents, with the water main in that, that comes into the residential property, right? So there's going to be a little bit more disruption in people's yards, but we fix all that. I mean, nothing to worry about there, right?
Correct. Yes, thank you. So the lines, the sewer mains that are within the street are clay, but they have been lined. The services, however, from the main into the property are privately owned. So one of the things we did is we sent a letter to everybody, at least in the Woodcrest neighborhood, where we're doing that substantial water main replacement, is a letter to see who would be interested in the city helping to televise the lines, to basically see what
For sewer.
issues could be there. For the sewer,
Right.
correct, just for the sewer. So we have about, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, about 15 or so properties that we're going to be working with to help identify what issues could be. Because we know that those service lines are still clay and could still be very likely have issues with roots or other things. So our project doesn't contemplate impacting any of those sewer services, but we want to do what we can to help people out, at least to understand if there's a problem there. The water, we will be replacing up to and including the shutoff valve that is within each yard. Generally, it should be approximately 10 feet from the curb, but in some cases, it's a little bit closer. When it is closer to the curb, we'll probably be moving it back a couple feet, several feet, just to get it further away from the curb. But when we do take out trees, and occasionally we do on these projects where we replace water main, it's typically because of the service. But we try to do what we can to avoid any tree removals, and if we do remove a tree, we can certainly work with that property owner and replace it. Obviously in a location that's going to work a lot better for any future maintenance on that service connection. And then storm sewer, we'll be replacing certain storm sewer pipes that we have televised already and feel like they are in need of replacement, as well as the catch basin structures. Primarily, it's the catch basin structures, especially ones that were built out of block many, many years ago. We don't do catch basins that way. We don't build them that way anymore. So we'll be bringing those up to current standards as well. We'll also be replacing the sewer castings on the mains throughout all of the streets and putting a protective wrapping in all of the rings at the top of the manholes on every street. And that's on the main, the city mains.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Geisler?
Yeah, and the one other piece, just to bring up, so everybody's aware, that anything, in that boulevard that does get disturbed, we don't seed anymore, we sod, right?
That's correct.
But it is the residents' responsibility to water the sod.
After
When-
45 days.
After 45,
Yep,
okay.
So 45 days, the contractor will maintain, we will water the sod. But after 45 days, we put out a notice telling everybody, the maintenance period is coming to an end. You are responsible to water going forward. So we also document every street, so we know what the condition is at the end of 45 days.
Mr. Hanson, you mentioned that the assessment, so if you do nothing else, the assessment rolls into your taxes, and you said it was $2,377, I think is the assessment.
Single-family home.
Single-family home, correct. Do we know what that adds to the annual property taxes? Because I thought you gave us that amount one night.
Yeah, so $307.
$307, okay, thank you. So if you do nothing else, you're gonna get all this brand-new street and everything else, and you're just gonna add, it'll be $307 added to your annual tax bill.
Correct, based on that interest rate of 4.34%. That's what the
4.34, yep,
yearly amount is.
For 10
Yep.
years.
yep. Very good. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Hanson before we open up public hearing? Anything else you want to cover, Mr. Hanson? All right. Well, thank you then. So in the case of Project 24-168, ordering project, I'm sorry, let's see here, what do we got here? 2.9 miles of residential commercial streets under Project 24-1. I suppose we have to do the public hearing separately. All right, so on Project 24-1, which is the Kumquat, Larch, Magnolia, Norway Street, 99th to 101st, Olive, Palm, Quince, 100th, 101st, 102nd, 102nd Lane, Goldenrod Street, 90th Avenue from East River Road to Norway, and Norway Street from dead end to cul-de-sac. If you would like to speak at the public hearing on that, we will open the public hearing. And now is your time to address council for that. If you have any questions or concerns, Project 24-1.
Your Honor, is your intent also in taking any objections to the assessments?
Yeah, so we've got the one letter,
You already-
right?
Yes, and this would be a final opportunity for anybody to also raise an objection to their assessment if they so wanted to do so.
Okay. All right, so this is the public hearing, and if you have any concerns
Mr. Mayor?
over the, yes.
I've been taking notes, so, I have several questions.
Oh, then we need you to come up to the mic here, though, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just give us your name and address.
I'll project.
Yeah, yeah. Name-
I'm louder than you are.
Give us your name and address, and then, go ahead.
Okay, from 9951 Kumquat. My name is Peg Lubers, and Ben Lubers is the owner, but I'm here because he's at work. I have several questions. First of all, it's really unfortunate that this happens, that we have to spend money, but I'm concerned about the sewer line that comes from the house out to the street. Like you said, it's clay. Some people have had theirs redone, I know, in plastic, but we haven't, And if in the process of doing the street stuff, my pipe is damaged, cracked, broken, moved, something, who pays for that? Do you have insurance or something? And also that business of the video, that, I don't know how we missed that, but that would be really kind of a nice thing to know. It was straight when you started, and now it's not straight. This happened to my brother, he lived in Newport, And it happened. He was just shocked. He did nothing, and all of a sudden, you know, his sewer wasn't draining, and that's why they dislodged everything. So I want to know if there's insurance or who would help to fix that, because that's an expensive thing to dig up your yard. And then when you do the water mains, I actually know where the water turnoff is in the yard. I'm not sure why I know that, but you'd have to go under our lilac bushes and under the fence. How is that going to work? I don't know. There's a dog. I don't want it to escape. You know, so that's a concern of ours, and I don't know who would help us with that.
Mr. Hanson, do you want to address these one at a time, or you want to cumulatively take them and then answer them?
I'm taking notes. So.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, very good.
We're all taking notes. And then, let's see, what else was it here? Also, if you're digging up the street, which obviously you're gonna do, how do we get out of our driveway? Will we be notified so we can like park on the other side of the street or something? Because, you know, you gotta get to work, and if you can't get over a big hump, and also, how long do you think the water normally is turned off when they do something like this? It'd be nice to know.
Sure.
Even if there's a pink tag on the door, still, it would be nice to know, to plan ahead. And other than the fact that it sure would be nice if we didn't have to spend this at all, we can't afford to spend anything else to fix something that breaks in the process of this. So that's, I think, what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Fortunately, we can call on the experience because we've been doing about 10 miles of streets a year.
Yes.
Up in, this is actually the smallest year I think we've gotten.
That's
several
correct,
years.
for a while. So Mayor, Council, and Madam, thank you for the questions. As far as the sewer line, so if it gets disturbed, we, like I said in the presentation, we don't contemplate digging near it, but if it gets disturbed, both the contractor and the city do have insurance. So the first process we would go through and we would investigate, where we would file an insurance claim. We would also likely televise the line so we could determine what's wrong with it and then determine the appropriate repair. If the sewer line is damaged, you ought to know it fairly quickly because you'll see it in your house. You'll see some issues in the house. So hopefully that would allow us to really respond to that issue. If it happens, we do many miles of streets each year, and this has come up a couple times, but it's very, very infrequent. The question about the water service and working around the fence and a dog, we've encountered that situation before. What we would do is work with the property owner directly to figure out a way to temporarily relocate the fence while we could do the work, and then replace the service and then put the fence back on where it was before.
Mr. Hanson, she mentioned that it also goes underneath some lilac bushes.
Okay.
You might actually end up removing those.
So
yeah.
if we have to remove some lilac bushes, we can certainly replace those. If we have to remove them, we'll really just have to see where things line up and how close to the digging zone we are before we would determine if we need to remove them or not.
you could just tunnel underneath.
No, well, most of that will be actually open cut
Yeah.
installed. The other question about how to come and go from your driveway, so we do prefer that you are parking in your driveway throughout the course of construction. So when we take out the curb, we will place gravel at the end of it to allow you to come and go. So really, a lot of the project, believe it or not, will really follow very similar to the way it does in any normal conditions. You'll be able to come and go because you'll be driving on a gravel surface most of the time, just except for those zones where we're replacing the water main pipes in front of your property. But we'll put the gravel back in place so you can be able to come and go as you do and as you need to. You know, garbage service is still going to have to take place, and it operates just the same as it is today. Mail service, that's something that a lot of people have questions about. We'll set up a temporary row of mailboxes nearby the project, but just outside of the project area, so you can get your mail from there. But you'll be able to come and go, and the only time we would ask you to park on the street is when we're pouring new curb in front of your driveway. So there we would ask you to park on one of the adjacent side streets for a period of 5 days while that concrete cures, and then you can park in your driveway again. And then the last question about the water turnoff. So in areas where we are replacing significant lengths of water main, the turnoffs are going to be relatively short because we will have a temporary water system in place that entire time. So the only time that we will actually turn off the water is when we're switching from the permanent to the temporary and then back again. So it's going to be about 15 minutes or so in that zone of time. In other areas where we're replacing hydrants and valves, we do those shut-offs during the day. So that's when you see a tag on your door that says the water will be shut off between 8 and 4 o'clock. And then we send those out 24 hours typically in advance. And the work is only done between Monday and Friday. So we would never shut off your water on the weekend. That's how it works for an area, well, the two different areas where we could be doing water work.
Back to the driveway access. If somebody is dealing with a disability, don't we make some special,
Yes, if somebody has a medical condition or a reason why they need to be able to park in their driveway all of the time, we could leave out a gap in the curb and then come back and fill that in at different time.
yeah, it's not ideal for the contractor, but it's something that
Correct.
we need to make
It's
special
an option.
accommodations.
So yes, I guess if you fall into that category, please let us know. Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Geisler?
Yeah, and Mr. Hanson, is there a way that we can make sure that she has that information about the televising of the line? Because it sounds like
Yes.
she missed that, so.
Yep.
Okay. So Mr. Himmer, our Director of Public Works, will meet you and provide that information for you. So you won't have missed that, and if that's something you want to participate in, you'd be able to have that option.
Your Honor.
I wonder if others missed it. If we've only got 15 people that asked to have it videoed out of that neighborhood, that's surprising because, I mean, that's $200 to have somebody come in and video your sewer line. So if we're offering to do that,
I agree.
I would think,
Thought of the same thing, Mayor.
yeah, it's surprising they're not asking. We're not.
If you recall, this is one that was kind of late in the process. This is something you just authorized us to do here recently. So we had already had the first neighborhood meeting. I think we were bumping up against the second neighborhood meeting. So there's that short window of opportunity for this to occur.
Okay.
I do know that they started last week, and so there's probably still an opportunity if anybody has seen this or has that interest. The opportunity still exists, but the window is closing fast.
Your Honor.
And we'll definitely be getting ahead. We're already looking at next year's projects, and we'll be mailing letters this year for next year's projects and every year thereafter.
Okay, sure. Very good. I'm sorry, is Councilmember Novak? Okay.
Mr. Hanson, correct me if I'm wrong, but very recently, the city did pass an ordinance that provided $10,000 worth of backup sewer and drain coverage for residents should something nasty occur.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out.
And also, I do want to point out that the backup sewer and drain and something called service line coverage is also available from private insurers, and those are very inexpensive. So something you might want to look into as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rayburn?
I just want to add really quickly that we really see it as our job is to serve you, and our staff is very customer service oriented, and they have done this year after year after year of recent times, and are really gonna, if you have questions or you have concerns, feel free to speak with them, and they will communicate clearly and work with you, and just want to let you know it will be done well.
Councilmember Carlson?
And just to add to Councilmember Ray Rower's point, with other projects that we've had, as things have come up, there's been many times where I've had residents contact me, and I've sent them either to Mr. Hanson or Mr. Himmer, and they worked very well with everyone.
Okay. Did you have anything else, ma'am?
No, that's it.
Okay, anybody else to, yes, we're still in the public hearing, although council sort of took over there for a little while, but yeah, we're still in the public hearing. Come on up and introduce yourself and give us your address and.
So, my name is Wasim Ahmed. I live on 99th Norway, or 9900 Norway Street Northwest. We are the written objection that you got, so we were wondering if you wanted me to like read it out and we could address some of the concerns that we had in there, or if you guys could like read it out and we could just get some responses to some of the stuff that we addressed in there.
Typically, we look at it, and if we see anything new or that changes anybody's mind in here, then we would address it. But Mr. Stemwedel and Mr. Brody?
Typically, we're not adopting the assessments tonight. We're going to come back, I think, was it May? May 7th. Staff will have a response, either saying, yes, we should adopt the assessment here for this particular property, and that does preserve your rights then to appeal it further if you wish, or maybe, if we come back with some other suggestion, but we'll have a recommendation to council. We'll consider this, put it in when we adopt the assessment. Today's just the beginning of that process.
Okay.
So we did receive your written objection, so it is part of the record, so you've preserved your rights to this point.
So it will be looked at and?
Yes.
Okay. So when it does come time to address it or respond to it, so we can kind of understand what's going to happen, how do we show up somewhere again, or just kind of confused on like what's the
It'll be
process?
at a council meeting. There won't be a public opportunity like this to speak. It'll just be a recommendation from staff, and then it'll be up to council whether to adopt it or not, along with the other assessments that night.
Okay.
Mr. Brody, will they receive something in writing addressing this letter then, or not?
I'll let Mr. Hanson seems to know the answer to this question.
Mayor and council, I will send the property owner a letter after tonight describing what his next steps would be to continue to appeal or object to the assessment. So he'll have everything there. Those are also identified in the public hearing notice, but I will provide more detail on that we'll be able to use. Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Is there anybody here to address council for the public hearing on this project? Anybody else to hear for public hearing? We're going to close the public hearing then and reserve comments to council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Rayrower,
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-1 sub 6A, ordering the improvement, and resolution number 21-4 sub 8,
24-1.
24-1 sub 8, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids.
Mr. Mayor, can we take them together like this?
I would request, given that one of them requires a supermajority, that if
Oh,
we could
okay.
split the two. And normally we put them together, but I'd ask that we'd
So,
split them up.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-1 sub 6A, ordering the improvement.
Second.
Motion by Rayrower and a second by Griscoviac. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Novak?
I just want to say that, again, these projects have been going on for many, many years. And as we saw with the Robinson Drive improvement, there's a lot of things that go into these improvements. And if we don't take them all together, it can end up costing twice as much. So it's really important that we get these done as we get them done, and we take the experts' advice on what needs to be done. So I do support this.
Okay, further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Rayrower?
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-1 sub 8, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids.
Second.
Motion by Rayrauer and a second by Griscoviac. Is there further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are on to item 8, which is to consider, wait a minute. 7, thank you. I thought Direct River Drive was next. All right. Consider Resolution 24-2 Sub 9, accepting the bid and awarding contract for the 2024 mill and overlay and full-depth reclamation project. And that's for the total mileage of streets proposed for rehabilitation via mill and overlay is 0.7 miles. And then we've got full-depth pavement reclamations on Direct River Drive on 113th Avenue. Mr. Hanson, anything? You were just smiling, ready to go. Anything you want to hit on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is our 2024 mill and overlay plus full-depth reclamation project. So we are going to be proposing a 2-inch mill and overlay on several streets. They're listed in the memo. They total 0.7 miles. One of those streets is 9th Avenue, and between Coon Rapids Boulevard and 121st Avenue. So there will be a separate item that will have a joint powers agreement with Anoka for them to share in the cost for that particular street. And then we are also proposing about 1 mile worth of full-depth reclamation. So this is a process where we're actually going to be grinding into the aggregate base and then providing a new 2-inch wear course pavement, which is equivalent to what is there today. The work would take place starting in May and then be expected to be complete early July.
Okay. In retrospect, I wish we would have considered putting dynamic speed signs as part of these projects, you know, because I'm thinking about 99th Avenue in that last project, which is just that straight shot across there that the cars cook on. And now we're looking at doing repairing Direct River Drive, which the holes are the only thing slowing people down right now. So.
Mr. Mayor?
I do have one thing to point out, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if you would allow me.
Mr. Hanson.
We do have a couple of mobile dynamic speed display signs that are mounted on posts that we can move around throughout the city. We have 2 of them, and we usually put them there for a few months. So both of those locations, 99th and Direct River, would be places we could put those for a period of time.
Yep.
Your Honor?
I still think we had to fund about 10 of them, but, yeah.
That was actually my question. What would be the expense to buy more of those?
Yeah. We'll workshop that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 24-2 Sub 9, awarding a contract to Northwest Asphalt in the amount of $526,529.13 for the 24-2 mill and overlay and full-depth reclamation project.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by, we'll give that one to Armstrong down there. Is there further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And now we're on to item 8. Consider adoption of ordinance 2297, Planned Unit Development Standards, City Code, Section 11-902. And this was planning case 24-3. Does anybody have anything that we introduced this at the last meeting and kind of got the laydown, the layout, the lowdown? Help me. What are the words?
Overview.
Anybody need anything on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Rayrauer?
It's just good that we periodically review and update the city's zoning regulations and clean up inconsistencies and align our code with our development trends. So with that, for planning case 24-3, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2297, amending city code section 11-902, and authorize summary publication of ordinances.
Second.
Motion by Rayrauer and a second by Carlson. Is there discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
No, just to add to your point, yeah, we workshopped this a couple of times. We introduced it. We went over it very well. I'm comfortable with all these recommendations.
Yeah, and the things we're looking at is home occupations, wall sign allowances, planned unit development regulations, and some general housekeeping updates. All right, any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we're up to new business. Item 9 is to consider a joint powers agreement with the City of Anoka for mill and overlay of 9th Avenue, Project 24-2. Does anybody still have any questions on that? Okay.
Provide a little bit of brief background.
I think they were waiting for that. Nobody was moving, Mr. Hanson.
So basically the terms of the joint powers agreement is that Anoka and Coon Rapids will split the cost equally. So the cost of a mill and overlay based on the bid prices is approximately $60,000 for this stretch. So Anoka will pay half of it plus an 8% fee based on their half to Coon Rapids for our administration and development of the contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
I'll make a motion to approve the joint power agreement for the mill and overlay of 9th Avenue between Coon Rapids Boulevard and 121st Avenue.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Carlson. Is there further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 10 is to consider Resolution 24-5 Sub 8, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the annual street maintenance program. Mr. Hanson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this item is for our 2024 Street Maintenance Program project, our annual project, where we bid out items like seal coating, fog sealing, crack sealing, pavement striping. You earlier approved a agreement to amend the JPA to allow Champlin. So Coon Rapids administers the project, and our plan would be to advertise as soon as this Friday, collecting bids in mid-March, and then awarding in early May, and then performing the work throughout the summer season. So things that Coon Rapids would be doing are fog sealing and crack sealing and paint striping.
Excellent.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Rayrauer?
With a welcome to Champlin and also an appreciation of this because it does end up saving us money for the same type of work by having this agreement. So with that, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 24-5 sub 8, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisements for bids for the 2024 street maintenance program.
Second.
Motion by Rayrauer and a second by Geisler. Is there discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor, just a comment.
Yep.
If I'd have looked ahead, I would have saw Champlin in the fine print there that they're included in this, so I'm glad it's confirmed here.
Nobody was thinking that.
No, I'm sure you have.
They are in it.
And Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember
I think
Geisler.
we've talked about it a little bit with the consent agenda item. I mean, it's just, I think, kudos to our team and our staff. You know, we could go alone, but when we come together, we work with our, neighboring cities, and now even across the river with Champlin, when we look at this, the economies of scale, and to be able to bid this, it's a win-win for everybody. We get cheaper pricing, and the vendors who are doing this work get, some more concentrated, that this is what they're going to be doing for the whole summer. They can bid on one thing. I think everybody wins, and it's because of the leadership of our Public Works team that's, put this together, so kudos.
Yeah, and Champlin isn't an orphan on the other side of the river. We've also got Brooklyn Center over there and Rogers over there.
Yeah.
So, all right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 11, Project 19-21 Coon Creek Trail. Consider Resolution 19-21 Sub 8, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids. Mr. Hanson?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is for the Coon Creek Trail project that is proposed to start at 121st Avenue, head west over to Coon Creek, then turn north and go up to Main Street. So the project contemplates construction of a 10-foot wide asphalt trail, and there will be a boardwalk, a wooden boardwalk, approximately 500 feet long over a large wet area through the middle of the trail alignment, generally between Partridge and Thrush Streets. The project would start in May of this year, and then we would propose completion in the wintertime for the boardwalk components, which we believe is going to be about a 9-month lead time and construction timeline to be able to do that. The winter months will actually help facilitate that part of the construction, and then finish off the final restoration and turf elements in the spring of '25.
All right. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Hanson on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
Just as background, this is something that's, was included in the 2013 park bond referendum. This is, kind of the last big trail. We've been working on this for a long time. And I think it's exciting to be able to look to try and get and work to complete more of our trails in our city. There are some of the gems that we've got. So with that, I want to make a motion to adopt Resolution 19-21 Sub 8, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisements for bids for the Coon Creek Trail construction.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Rayrauer.
Mr. Mayor?
Council,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
is there discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Carlson?
Yeah, I just also want to point out that this is funded.
Yes.
The money's there. So, yeah, there's been, of course, discussion about this project for years, and now it's time to land the plane.
Land the plane. That's an interesting one, yeah. Yeah, and this is one where, we've had some pushback on it. It's, some very well-meaning folks that live along there that really don't want this trail in their backyard, and I get it, but that's where we have these trails in a lot of places around town. We had GIS look up crime statistics to see if this actually brings more crime, and that wasn't the case. And we're all about our trails and our parks, and people love them, and this was just the next one. And it's been a long road to get here, and I think we should get it done.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
I'd like to add to that a little bit, just because it's in Ward 1. I've heard a lot of feedback from residents on this. It goes back a ways, like you said, back to the park referendum bond of 2013. So it is funded with trail funds there. I mean, if we stay in budget, that is, and that's our intent. But, over the years, I'll say over the years, because the last time I ran for city council, I knocked on all those doors, and one of the things I talked about was, what do you think of a trail back here? Because at first, I really wasn't a proponent of it, because we have other trails, and I thought maybe this wasn't the best use of those trail funds. Now, over the years, my mind has changed a little bit about that, and with a really open mind, I have talked to a lot of neighbors in Ward 1. I've talked to neighbors not only impacted right along the fence line, and there is some of that, but not a lot. But I've also talked to neighbors, out, the neighbors that are down on Thrush Street, on Partridge Street, Osage Suites, and Quinn. And the overwhelming feedback from those neighbors is that would be great to have a trail down there. Like Councilmember Geisler mentioned, residents just value these trails. We keep them up nice. We've invested in them. It's just a really nice way to go, especially in this area. Now, I'm thinking about all the folks. When I walk around there, there's people walking their dogs, there's people on their bikes, there's people with their children, and this trail is going to be a really nice amenity to that. Again, I'm for putting it out for plans and specifications, making sure that we can stay within budget. The other thing is there's going to be access points on a couple of those streets too, so it's going to be very well accessed along there. So just wanted to point out that, you know, it's been in the works for a long while. There's been different iterations of what this trail alignment should be. I think the city council, the staff, I mean, Coon Creek Watershed District, I mean, you name it, the Forest Service, everyone has collaborated to get the alignment that we have right now. So I'm looking forward to putting it out for bid and seeing if we can get this trail constructed within budget.
Your Honor?
Councilmember Novak?
No, I completely agree with Councilmember Griscoviac. What we had here was the classic case of collaboration between the public, between various departments, to get the best possible product that you could get at the very end of the process. Obviously, having only been here for 1 year, I came into this very, very late, but just watching what has happened and seeing what has been done on this one, I'm very impressed with what everyone has done and very happy with the end product. So thank you, everyone.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Just real quick, like, I was at a League of Minnesota Cities meeting this last weekend, and we were on a break, and lo and behold, I was talking to somebody that moved to another city just near us. Her and her family used to live right over by Sand Creek School. And I asked her what she thought of where she's living right now. And she said, well, I got a whole bunch of dirt around me and I have to go 2.5 miles to take my daughter to a park. Mm-hmm. And she said, I so miss living where I did because I could go virtually anywhere in the city and I could take my daughter all the way up to Bunker Hills Park on trails in Coon Rapids. Mm-hmm. And I may be off on my number because we might have added some, but I think 54 parks when I was a lowly reserve going around and checking all the parks. And right now, is that?
It's actually short by quite a bit, isn't it?
Like I said, I may be off. We're talking 10 years ago.
I think that's about how many miles of trails we have.
But
Our expert's saying 50.
50?
Okay.
50 active parks.
Okay. I might have added in a couple of city utilities and whatever else we also had to cover.
But anyways, I thought you were way short.
That being said, it is amazing when you talk to people, they call you out on your 50. You don't have that many parks in your city. Let me show you my map.
Yeah.
It's we have a great system, a great trail system, et cetera, and I know it's been going on for years and years in building this up, but we should be really proud of this. And obviously, I support it.
So we're going to count on your vote on this.
Yes, you can.
Mr. Mayor,
So, Councilmember Carlson?
I hate to do this, but I have to correct Councilmember Armstrong.
Oh,
I wouldn't
please, carry
typically do
on.
that, but, Councilmember Armstrong patrolled our parks for many, many years, and no, he was no lowly reserve. He was a fantastic reserve. And he served the community extremely well. I just want to make that point, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are on to item 12, which is to consider resolution, hang on, let me just make sure I get too many notes here. Consider resolution 24-3 sub 8, accepting plans and specifications for miscellaneous trail reconstruction and authorize solicitation of bids. Mr. Hanson, it is the Mr. Hanson show tonight. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is our annual 2024 or annual miscellaneous trail reconstruction project. So this year, we're proposing to reconstruct a section of the Round Lake Boulevard Trail that exists on the east side of Round Lake Boulevard from where the bridge overpass is north to Main Street. We are also proposing a section of the Sand Creek Trail, or rather, it's the trail that follows the railroad track just south of 121st Avenue, south to where the east-west portion of Sand Creek Trail is. And I would add that as part of that project, or as part of that area of the project, we are proposing to add a crosswalk at Unity Street to help trail users get from the east side of the tracks to the west side where the trail continues north of 121st. We'll also add some signage, help guiding people around to where that trail continues. So we will be including that as part of this work. And then we also propose to reconstruct a portion of the Coon Rapids Boulevard Extension Trail. It's the segment that goes from the Met Council lift station over at Coon Creek over to Sycamore Street. So this work would be proposed to be bid out in March with a council award proposed on April 2nd, and then construction occurring between June and August. And it was all included in the Park Improvement Fund, the cost for this project.
Very good. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Hanson?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 24-378, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisements for bids for the 2024 miscellaneous trail reconstruction and improvement project.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Carlson. Is there discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
I think it's just like things that we've already been talking about. It is our parks, it's our trails. They're a huge amenity for our city, and, you know, it's great that we, you know, keep the improvements up and make sure that they're all in good shape and working order for our residents to use across the city, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Raybrower?
I just have to say my spot too. So in talking to thousands of residents, in an unscientific survey, I would say the number one answer for why they love it here was the parks and trails. And with putting in parks and trails, we also have to maintain those parks and trails so that they're in good condition for folks out walking and riding their bikes and so on. So yes, I think that we do a fabulous job, and we're just going to keep it up.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. We are up to the open mic public comment portion. Pressure's on. Neil, you're here for that? No? Okay. All right, well, if we don't have anybody here for the open mic public comment portion, and I don't have reports on any previous open mics, we are up to other business. Ms. Lensmeyer, how's the election going?
Mr. Mayor, council members, we are doing well. We're open for direct balloting if you're interested in voting ahead of the election, which is on March 5th. Come see us from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, and then we'll be open the Saturday before. So March 2nd from 9 to 3.
Your Honor?
What's our meeting on when are we doing that, when are we doing the March 5th meeting then?
March 4th, Monday.
That is scheduled for March 4th, yeah.
Thank you. I've been so distracted by a meeting I've got in DC that week, all of a sudden I went, oh, I hope we didn't move it to Wednesday.
We avoid Wednesdays.
Okay, Councilmember Novak?
No, on a lighter note, I remember during our conversation regarding beekeeping in Coon Rapids, I just want to let it be known that my wife was very, very happy to be permit number 1 to get inspected for beehives. However, we do have a divided household. My son is not as pleased about this.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
A couple of things going on. Our front door program. So that's where if you're going to look to make improvements to the front, you know, the exterior of your home, there is a grant program, and it's wildly popular. We've had to do, you know, lottery drawings to see who gets those grant funds. But if you're interested, put your name in. The deadline for putting the application in is the 28th. So you've got till what, that's next week, Wednesday. So got another week to do that.
All right. Other business to come before council? Mr. Stemwell?
Mayor and Council, I'd just like to point out that our distinguished police chief will be jumping in a lake soon, and I was wondering if he might provide a brief update of what the police department's up to in that regard and what folks might want to know.
Mr. Steiner, Chief Steiner, I didn't think you were going to do that.
It was a weak moment, and I was roped in, but it's a good cause. So we actually have 16 plungers on Saturday morning. And we're raising a lot of money for a good cause, the Special Olympics, and we're happy to do it. It's a lot of law enforcement presence and other partners in the community as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Question mark?
I think. So, on a heavier note, if I could have just a moment to wish our best to the people in Burnsville, the citizens there, and the police department, fire department, who are going through a rough time right now. And although they're not geographically close to us in, proximity to they're on the other end of town, I guess. It's kind of times like this where we find out how intertwined we are, because we got back to work after the weekend and talked about the events that happened on Sunday morning. Found we have connections to this police department, to the Burnsville Police Department, and ranging from just casual acquaintances to an officer that was a very close friend and mentor to one of the people that tragically died. So this week, you'll see us here at the police department wearing our morning bands over our badges. It's kind of one of our traditions, and we'll have those on until they're all laid to rest. I suspect we'll have officers standing honor guard. Some will do it as part of the Law Enforcement Memorial Association, and some will just do it on their own. The rest of us will be attending funerals and in processions, I assume, next week. I don't know the details. And we'll look for ways to support their families, and financially or otherwise. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done to make this better, but it's just truly a sad, sad time for law enforcement and Minnesota in general. So just wanted to wish our best to them. So.
But it was, beyond the profound sadness of that, what I was also struck by was, with a domestic like that, that could have been us. That could have been any department that happened to. And it's just terrible.
Very, very true. And we often, I was talking to Mr. Stemwedel about this earlier today, we often get compared as an organization to Burnsville because of our size of the community and our police department. We have a lot of similarities between our towns. So it's just, it's one of those deals, I know, and for the public, and this is a sad thing to say, but, everybody wants to help, and there'll be a lot of stuff or options out there probably for people to help and donate financially, and we encourage that. I did receive some information to use caution. We are going to refer everybody to the City of Burnsville's website, where I'm told later this week there'll be a list of legitimate organizations. Sadly, there's always somebody willing to exploit a bad situation. So if you check in a little later this week with the City of Burnsville website for any legitimate sources if you choose to make a donation. So.
Yeah. And we really appreciate your department, their participation in the procession, and the honor guard that's been going on so far, and our fire department's been involved in that, and anything that we can do to support our ability to be able to offer that support is very worthwhile.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Armstrong.
Real quick, you had mentioned earlier, it was kind of the Mr. Hanson show today with everything that he had been covering. I just wanted to thank city staff, because I've been firing a few more questions than normal to him over the last 30 days. And I think just what we saw with Mr. Hanson handling today, the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. We ask a lot of questions and don't always make their life easy with some of the questions that we have and whatever else, but they do a fantastic job. And I can recount more than once, because we're all busy and whatever else. A lot of times I'll shoot an email off to somebody at 9:30 at night expecting to get an answer the next day, and I've got an answer in like 5 or 6 minutes, and it's like, what are you still doing up? But just wanted to give my appreciation and thanks for answering all the questions, because I'm sure I'll have a lot more of them.
Clarification, this Saturday, the 24th?
This Saturday, the 24th.
And where, what lake now?
It's in Blaine.
Is it the lakes in Blaine?
It's the
Yeah,
lakes.
Lakeside.
Lakeside Park or whatever it
Yeah,
is?
I think that's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
All right. Just want to know. Other business to come before council. Anything? All right, anything else?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion by Geisler, seconded by Novak to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.